Every single country out there has to make this massive, fundamental choice about its money. It's a decision that totally shapes its economy, impacts global trade, and yeah, it can even change the value of the cash in your wallet. So, what is this choice, and why is it so darn hard to get right? Let's get into it.
You know that money you have? Its value isn't some fixed, universal thing. The second it crosses a border, it's constantly changing. We're going to dig into how that value gets set, and maybe more importantly, what happens during the absolute high-stakes drama when one of those systems just completely falls apart.
Okay, so it all starts with a big fork in the road. Every nation's got to pick a path for its currency, and that one decision sets the stage for pretty much everything that follows.
And that choice really boils down to two main systems. On one side, you've got a fixed or pegged rate. Think of it like dropping a heavy anchor. The government basically says, our currency is worth exactly this much, and they usually tie it to something super stable like the US dollar. The other option, that's a floating rate. And here, the government just lets go. The value gets decided by the wild world of the global market, traders buying and selling millions every single second.
So, which way do you think most countries lean? You'd probably guess that in today's crazy fast global economy, most would just let their currency float, right? It just seems more modern. But what's really wild is that the data shows the complete opposite. A solid majority, we're talking almost 60%, actually go for the stability of a fixed system. They'd rather have predictability than total flexibility.
But this choice, it's not as easy as just picking a side. See, in the world of international economics, there's this unbreakable rule, a fundamental problem that makes everything way more complicated.
And yeah, here's the catch. It turns out you just can't have it all. When you're trying to manage your country's economy on the world stage, you're slammed with what is basically an impossible choice.
And this right here is the heart of the whole dilemma. It's called the impossible trinity. Just imagine three things that, ideally, every country would love to have. Number one, a stable, predictable exchange rate. Number two, total freedom for money to flow in and out of the country, no questions asked. And number three, the power to set your own interest rates to manage your own economy, to fight inflation or create jobs. Sounds great, right? Well, here's the rule. You can pick any two of those, but you can never, ever have all three. You always have to sacrifice one. Let's make this real. Look at the United States. The U.S. cares most about two things: letting money zip freely across its borders, and giving its central bank, the Fed, the power to control interest rates at home. Now, because it chose those two, the rules of the Trinity say it has to give up a fixed exchange rate, and that's exactly why the U.S. dollar floats.
Now let's hop over to Hong Kong. They play the game completely differently. They also want free capital flows, but they also really want the stability of a fixed exchange rate, which they peg to the US dollar. So what's the sacrifice? What do they have to give up? Control over their own interest rates. Hong Kong's monetary policy is basically handcuffed to whatever the US Federal Reserve decides to do.
And for our third example, we have China. China's priorities are controlling its own domestic economy with its own interest rates and keeping its exchange rate stable. To get both of those, the impossible trinity says something has to go. And what goes? Free capital flows. This is exactly why China has what are called capital controls, which limit how much money can move in and out of the country.
So you see these totally different strategies. But with this impossible choice hanging over everyone's head, how does a country actually decide what to do? What makes one path better than another?
Well, it turns out there's no magic formula here. It all depends on what a country looks like. For instance, if you're a small country and a huge chunk of your economy is based on trade, you might really prefer a fixed rate. It just makes doing business so much more predictable. But if you're a really big country dealing with high inflation, you might need the flexibility of a floating rate just to make sure your stuff is still affordable for other countries to buy. Every path has its own pros and cons.
Okay, so picking a system is one thing, but trying to defend it, that's a whole other ballgame. Because when these systems get put under incredible pressure, the results can be absolutely devastating. And that's when we start talking about currency crises and currency wars.
And believe me, when things go wrong, they can go wrong with terrifying speed. Just look at the Russian currency crisis back in 2014. In just 3 weeks, the ruble lost nearly half its value. I mean, can you imagine your life savings getting cut in half just like that? It's brutal. That's the reality of a currency collapse.
So what is a currency crisis, really? At its core, it's a massive vote of no confidence from the rest of the world. It's a total panic, where investors all rush for the exits at once, selling off a country's currency so fast that the government just can't stop the bleeding. The result is almost always a painful, sharp drop in value and, you guessed it, widespread economic chaos.
And what kicks off a panic like that? Well, it's usually not just one thing. It's more like a perfect storm of problems. It could be massive government debt, a shaky banking system, political chaos, or a sudden shock from the outside world, like oil prices suddenly going through the roof. Any one of these things can be the match that lights the fuse.
And this can lead to another really dangerous situation. Sometimes a country might intentionally try to weaken its own currency. Why? To make its exports cheaper and get an edge in trade. But here's the thing. Exchange rates are a zero-sum game. For one currency to go down, another one has to go up. And when countries start competing in this race to the bottom, it can ignite what's called a currency war, which can threaten the stability of the entire global economy.
So, you see, it all comes back to that impossible choice. In this global chess match of high-stakes financial strategy, every country is constantly juggling these trade-offs. What's more important? Control, freedom, or stability? And what is the ultimate price they and all of us are willing to pay?